following program is a presentation of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio in iTunes.
And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market. From unusual activity alerts to market updates and trading strategies. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block. With your host, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com and co-hosts Mike Tusaw from KnowYourOptionsInc.com and Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. The Option Block is brought to you by Options Express. Don't spend time worrying about your broker. At Options Express, security, stability, and account protection are the most important responsibilities to our customers. Secure account access, enhanced financial protection, entrusted with over $7 billion in customer assets, established financial stability. Options Express lets you trade with confidence. Stocks, options, and futures, all in one account. Trade with a specialist. Visit optionsexpress.com/OXradio to open your free account. Options Express is a member of FINRA, SIPC, and NFA.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Option Block. We are, of course, your bi-weekly source for all things options related. My name is Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com, as well as from the action-packed Options Insider Radio Network. I just checked the numbers the other day, and on our new platform, we've already surpassed 1 million downloads on that new platform. We haven't been on it very long, listeners, so you guys are really doing your part and eating up our content, and we love you for it. Keep it up. Be sure to check out our latest program, the Futures Options Radio program, coming soon to a podcast provider near you. I've been teasing it for a while, but trust me, it's coming soon. It's going to be worth the wait. And joining me on the old show today, starting off, let's go in order of proximity this time, because he always goes last. Let's make him first this time and mix it up a little bit. You know him, you love him. He is the Viceroy from Options Express, a.k.a. Mr. Alex Jacobson. Alex, welcome back to the show, sir.
Thanks, Mark. Good to be here. Speaking of futures, we had a futures customer event on Friday and had about 90% turnout, which if you do events, you know that's enthusiasm. Normally you get about a 60%
yeah, that's great.
percent turnout, but filled the crowd on futures on Friday, so tells you something about the interest.
I think they were there to see you, Alex, between you and me. The futures were immaterial to meeting the Viceroy in person.
It's the hat.
Yes, it's the hat. People want to see the hat in person, see if it matches the image they have in their mind. Speaking of crazy hats, he doesn't have one. We'll talk about him anyway. You know him, you love him as Mr. Uncle Mike Tusaw from RCM Asset Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the show, sir.
That's not true at all. I do have a crazy hat. I actually have one that it's when we're in Jamaica, I got a hat with fake dreadlocks attached to it. That is a crazy hat.
That is a pretty crazy hat, particularly on your head where your hair is mostly blonde. That big dreadlocks coming out of your hat might look a little odd. So I guess you get some double crazy. I guess you can pull off almost kind of a quasi Captain Jack look or something like that. Maybe kind of interesting.
There you go.
And last but certainly not least, freshly back from his trip to Chicago. I've never been there, Andrew. You have to tell me about it sometime. Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Rock Lobster.
Pleased as punch to be back on the show. I actually spent a whole weekend eating succulent lobsters, if you can believe it. If you can believe it, but I did.
I don't believe it, and therefore I would be correct.
Things were so bountiful, we had 2 lobsters per person. That's what life is like. It's, like in the suburbs, you have 2 cars in every garage in Maine. We have 2 lobsters in everybody's pocket. That's what we got.
All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Andrew. And with the team assembled like the Avengers, we shall dive right on into the trading block.
The trading block.
All right, listeners, welcome to the Trading Block. This is, of course, the portion of the program where we break down the action that was going on the old street today, and it wasn't a heck of a lot of action really today. It was pretty much an unched day. Most of the major indices closing fractionally up or down on the day, really nothing much going on. We saw the trend of most of the day was a bit of a sell-off. It looked like we were giving back some of the gains we've had over the past few weeks, and then towards the end of the day, they paired even that to the point where the NASDAQ actually closed up on the day, and most of the other major indices seem to get back some of their losses from earlier in the session. So basically though, on the rest of the day, it was unched for the most part, except for some interesting news out of a few individual names. I think the first one that really caught my eye, we've chatted about it a little bit here on the show, but over the past, today anyway, it was up 7.5%. This is Blackberry, a name that's kind of been in the doldrums of late. A lot of people thought after they got their wings clipped in their past earnings announcement that was kind of the beginning of the slow, long death spiral for Blackberry. The performance of the stock of late seems to have been pretty much reinforcing that. It's been essentially a long, slow decline from the 10 handle all the way down south of the 10 handle into the 8.5 handle for a while. Today they reversed that trend, rallying 7.5% to close at around 960. Got as high as nearly 980 on the day today. Off of, I'm not sure really what. I couldn't really see the genesis for that. There was some chatter over there, our friends at briefing.com saying that there was some chatter about the sales of the company's Q10 smartphone that came out in May, apparently implying that was good, that there was actually some sales. And surprisingly enough, I did randomly over this past weekend run into someone who was using the BlackBerry Q10 and kind of liked it and was trying to sell me on the whole new BlackBerry operating system. So that's my anecdotal evidence for the resurgence of BlackBerry. Perhaps the market caught wind of it because given the stock a nice boost today. The volume, too, the options volume was pretty much pretty strong across the board. ADV is about 110,000, doing nearly 50% more than that, nearly 160,000 contracts. The bulk of it pretty much going net long deltas, about 1 million long deltas. Anyone who watches these things on a regular basis knows that's a pretty substantial margin. Usually you see plus or minus 200,000 on the day's activity, unless something like today happens in which everyone's flocking in to get long some deltas. Not surprisingly here, we also saw the weekly AUG 10s were pretty much leading the charts, up nearly 21,000 contracts going up. So a fifth of the typical ADV going up on that one strike alone today with just, 5 days to go. Coming up on 4 days now. So an interesting name. Andrew, you guys over there at the pit, you been watching or playing around with BlackBerry at all lately?
Not since the last earnings report. I still watch it, and I didn't see any activity on it early this morning. Yet there it is. It is trading fairly robustly.
We've had some people writing into the show about this name of late, too, which is another reason I think it's been lingering in the back of my mind. People have been asking questions. I think we actually asked one on the show recently about why the margin levels have been adjusted for this name, and of course it's pretty apparent this name has sold off aggressively, but this name, it seems to be attracting a lot of the listeners of our show these days. It's a cheaper, lower price name. They can get some reasonable amounts of premium for them if they fall on the premium selling side of the fence, and the risk is relatively limited. It can only go to 0, so you can lose 9 handles. So that seems to attract a lot of the premium sellers in our audience who don't want to write premium on a $200 or $500 name, but a $9 name. They can kind of wrap their heads around, it seems like. So a lot of interest in this one. Hopefully today you were pretty active. Maybe you were legging into some bullish risk reversals, and which is the case, then you did all right today. But yeah, we're going to keep an eye on this one because I really don't know, aside from some random chatter about maybe people buying the Q10 smartphone, which I thought one of the reasons the stock has been beaten down so badly is because no one's buying that thing. But c'est la vie, maybe there's maybe something else. Maybe there's takeover in the works. I know if you get into the fundamentals, the diehard fundamentals that you are, Andrew, there's some cash value. There's some net asset value lurking there on the books in BlackBerry. What that nets out to, I don't know what price per share. But there definitely has got to be a floor in there somewhere. The patents alone have to be worth something, you would think. So interesting one. We'll keep an eye on BlackBerry.
It's trading twice cash. Twice cash, so it's probably trading, little less than, it's trading half its book value. So from a fundy point of view, it's dirt cheap.
There you go, from Andrew's mouth.
Value trap? Maybe Alex would know that. It's a value trap, right? The stock gets so cheap, it's trading at half its book value, and then boom. I mean, what's the revenue? It's $21 per share in revenue. So by any metric, it is cheap. The problem is everybody just thinks they're going to go out of business. It's probably a wheel type trade, but
yeah,
it's nothing terribly exciting.
All right, Mr. Andrew, thank you for that. But of course, a lot going on in Mr. Tusaw's neck of the woods as well. Particularly that big fruit company getting a nice reprieve here from the old White House. Coming in today, ordering a disapproval of the International Trade Commission's ban on sales of the iPhone 4 and iPad that were found to infringe on some Samsung patents. Stock getting a nice boost here, up 1.5 or 7 handles, touching on some near-term highs here for Apple. We haven't been up at these 470 levels in a while. So does this movement over the past few sessions, does this change your outlook on Apple here? You're getting a little bit more bullish? You're still cautiously optimistic with some downside here?
Still cautiously optimistic, and I'm just continuing to still long the 390 put for April, and still just continuing to roll up a variety of short put spreads in one way, shape, or form, continuing to roll up. I don't know if this news would necessarily change my view on it. I think we're still going to be in kind of a channeling pattern for a while, and I still think we're going to be a lot like the next it's going to be a lot like the next generation of Microsoft, is my opinion of it. But for the time being, I have more long deltas than short, so no complaints.
I went to the movies this weekend and I saw the trailer for the Steve Jobs movie, and if that's any indicator, I'm a seller of Apple. Didn't look too resounding. The trailer was the original innovator, the original icon. I was like, really, the original innovator, Steve Jobs? There was no Thomas Edison, perhaps, back in the day, or anyone else a few years before Steve Jobs who innovated on any crazy ideas.
Somebody invented trains too, I think.
Yeah, or Henry Ford, or legions of countless innovators going back to time immemorial. And yet Steve Jobs was apparently created that.
Don't you guys get it? There was no life before the iPhone.
Yes, really. There wasn't. Before we had a cool touchscreen gizmos, there was not in life.
In the beginning, there was the iPad, and then the iPod, then the iPad, then the iPhone. That's history. That's all you need to know.
I like it. Good stuff. All right, Mr. Alex, anything catching your eye before we roll on into the trading block?
As you said, the stealth rally in Apple, stock is up 20% off its lows. Two other names that have gotten a little trade lift here. Lululemon is bouncing back, also a bit of a stealth rally. And that was everyone's favorite, 2-3 months ago, and then up into the 80s, and then they missed and into the 60s. But it's come back. Another one a lot of our clientele plays, Dendreon. Of course, I never say that right, has earnings this week. And we've seen a bunch of activity in that in the last couple business days.
It always cracks me up, the attraction of the OX crowd to Lululemon. I don't see a lot of the typical OX clientele being users of sheer yoga pants, yet c'est la vie. They seem to love the stock, so what do I know?
They're just not telling you that they wear the sheer yoga pants, Mark.
It makes
like maybe you do behind closed doors and we can't see the sheer yoga pants, yet somehow somebody's selling them.
Hey, you can't discount the firm support you get when you're doing a radio show from a nice sheer yoga pants, It just keeps you in business.
We do a yoga class here, not that I participated in the stairwell a couple of times a week for our folks who are yoga participants. I have a 20-year-old daughter. She lives at Lululemon. In fact, she can tell you where all the stores are in the greater Chicago area. It's the cross of yoga pants and social media.
And looking here at Dendreon, this is another one we talked about a few times here on the show. This is a surprising choice, but it's a $5 name, so it's not surprising to get some action. What are the OX clientele? What are they lighting up the tape out here in Dendreon, Alex? Are they buyers? Are they premium sellers and a $5 name? What's really moving the tape out here?
Mostly been bullish buying in the last couple of days. I think earnings are a couple days away.
They're on the 8th before they open, yeah.
Yeah, and we're also Facebook, now that it's up over the IPO price, it's coming out of the woodwork. It's coming out of accounts. I mean, it was living dead money, and Facebook has been lighting up the tape a lot. So it's kind of interesting seeing Facebook up around $40. And on our OX social site, people are talking about target prices for it. And of course, that's sort of sparked the talk of, $50, $60. The thing is, when you see that kind of talk, you take the calculator and do the market cap and go, oh, this can't get that big because there's too much stock around. But a lot of conversation, a lot of trading on it on the desk, but also a lot of conversation on our social site about upside targets. And it's funny because, 4 months ago, the upside target was 20, and now people are talking 50. So interesting to watch the evolution of Facebook.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of people are starting to free up that money now that it's hitting that, you think that 38 level would have been, and it did pose a little bit of, resistance for a while, but now we've broken through it, and apparently the selling frenzy is over. People are unleashing that dead money and either putting it back in, getting more Facebook or putting it elsewhere, and people are just keeping on rolling past that 39, 38 handle. We'll see where it goes. But I kind of agree with you, Alex. I don't know how much higher we can go in the near term here. Of course, if you believe the earnings, they seem to have surmounted that mobile obstacle, at least in the near term. That was the big problem facing them. They couldn't monetize that mobile user, and the vast majority of their users were mobile users. So interesting to see how they're finally making some money on that mobile user, a problem all online content providers have in this day and age. All right, thank you for that, team. And now we shall keep on rolling right on into the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the old Odd Block. Going to kick things off before we dive into some of the new stuff with a quick look back on a name we talked about earlier in the show today, and we actually hit on for us an unusual activity alert on the site last week. This is, of course, everyone's favorite, especially at OX these days, it seems. Dendreon, ticker symbol DNDN. If you recall, on the site last week, we profiled the AUG7s coming in a massive block for 9 cents. People coming in and hitting the bid, closing out a big closing seller. Trying to see what the actual number was here. I don't have it. Oh, nearly 20,000 times on some substantial open interest. So a surprisingly large closing seller, but looks like this guy may have raced too soon because these calls not exactly succumbing to mother decay as of yet, are they, Andrew?
No, they are fighting. I guess they're putting up the good fight.
I was going to say, is that the good fight or the bad fight? I don't know. I guess it depends on your point of view.
Well, it is the bad fight. They did double, though, in value with then, this is, of course, also we have a little problem here with buying really out of the money calls because they were about 50% out, almost actually 80% out of the money at the time. So, but they have doubled in value. They've gone from 9 cents to 18 cents, that's a rough double, with the bid was 16 cents. And, the open interest, I thought at the time it looked like closing paper to me, and then the open interest is now down substantially from 30,000 to 14. But it looks like somebody got out too soon, or there was somebody that was short the calls closing. It was very hard to figure out exactly what side. It just, there was a lot of, basically they traded and then they went bid afterward, which kind of is always fishing me. Like, okay, the big customer got out and then everybody got in. So the paper was an odd block special, at least from that point of view. And the volatility is going through the moon now. We're 160% volatility in August, which in a $5 stock, as Alex will tell you, is not very much. The at the money straddle is now trading for, this, Mark, you'll love this because you'll probably get you can probably trade your fly again.
Oh, flies for a credit. Time fly for a credit. There we go.
You're almost, I think you're close. Because we have 235% in the Augie weekly and 159% in the August 17. So you might be able to. I'm just looking at it now. I go, that's crazy.
There we go. The old time fly strikes again. I'll have to leg into that after the show and see what I can do. Maybe that same sucker who was bidding up the calls in, what was it? That was in Zynga. it was actually the straddle he was buying. Is at work here as well. I'll have to see. Bidding up term structures across the board, this fellow.
Yeah, I mean the five straddle's almost $1. You could probably sell it for $1 now, going into earnings, and that's a pretty big earnings number.
You're right. I'm having the same thought. I think we're thinking along the same lines, sir. There might be some post-market activity going on after the show here today.
Maybe. We got another couple days, which is my favorite. I tell all my clients, wait, if you're going to put on a trade, generally on earnings, wait till, we generally don't do earnings trades per se, but sometimes things get ridiculous from a risk-reward point of view, like time spreads for 3 cents and stuff like that. How much can you lose? But this definitely looks like one that's getting, and I'm sure that volatility will get more and more big because it's going up. It's up 100 points today.
Yeah. Problem is, you don't have enough strikes here. Looks like in the front month weekly, it goes up to 5 half, then 7. They're missing quite a few half strikes in between. That would be nice. I
think they're going to list more probably tomorrow.
I would hope so.
It went above the magic $5 number.
Exactly. Once it gets above the 5 handle, a little inside baseball for our listeners, but yes, once it gets above the 5 handle, those other strikes start flocking in. So if you're looking to leg in some time flies, maybe you wait till tomorrow till the 6 and 6 half strikes become available, and you get a little bit more choices rather than I don't think anyone wants the 5-7. that 7 strike, not exactly too potent or too viable here. But an interesting one to kick off the old odd block with. We're going to stay in the D block because we're going over to DeVry now, a name we've talked about several times on the show in the past. We love this paid education sector. It gives us good fodder here for the old show. And we're going to kick things off. Yeah, DeVry closing today, $31.66, up about 3% on the day. This is the name that does a whopping 300 contracts a day usually, yet we saw some decently sized put spreads going up today. Seems like spreads are the name of the game, aside from the other one we just mentioned. Pretty much the rest of the odd block today is going to be spread rolling for the most part. We saw the DeVry AUG 3035 put spread going up for $3.50. Went up in a block of over nearly 2,200 contracts and a total of 3,000 looks like on the day. 3,000 by 3,400 went up on those 2 strikes. So I'm guessing maybe the guy came in with some more, or maybe others piggybacked on afterwards. ADX at ADV really small, so this is all pretty much. But of course the open interest on both strikes is 3,500 and about 5,000. So looks like closing and on paper here to. Buying to close here going into this rally. Is that your call as well, Senior Andrew?
Yes, I think they sold the put spread lower. They picked up a rally and they're taking their money. It feels very much like that, and you have earnings coming out. So it was somebody obviously we didn't catch the entry, but we're catching the customer probably on the exit. And earnings are due out. Like I said, earnings are due out in 3 days.
And staying on that tip of rolling put spreads or closing put spreads, we got head on over to Chubb Corp. It's one of the greatest all-time corporate names, Chubb. It just cracks me up whenever I hear it. But I don't know. Maybe that's the inner 8-year-old in me laughing at the name. But c'est la vie. Kind of hard to take them seriously. Chubb's coming to town. Ticker symbol CB closing today, $86.10. Down about $1 or so, a little over 1% on the day today. Another one, not really usually a big options player, doing about 400 contracts a day, doing about 3,000 today. And as I alluded to before, yet again, we're going into put spread territory. The September this time, 80-85 put spread, trading for a clean buck. 1,000 times, a little bit more than that going up total on the day today. But in relatively small blocks. This wasn't one big 1,000 contract block or anything like that. And with average daily volume of about 400, with about open interest of about 400 contracts on each of these strikes, looks like it's all opening. And since it went up on the open, looks like more of a sale we're thinking here, Andrew, on this 80-85 put spread here for $1.
Yep, I think they're just trying to make $1. And
aren't we all, sir?
Make $1?
Making $1, yes, or perhaps 2.
Much of it went up $1, so no open interest. Opening, I don't, who would buy that put spread for $1? I think that's more of a credit spread with no benefits, as Mr. Tucson would say, just your vanilla credit spread. And one of the weaker financial companies, actually, when I think the XLF up on the day at some point. So Chubb was just kind of hanging out there where it was down 5 cents, but it just hanging out there, and they kind of just kept pounding the spread out. Not really much, with stock down. There wasn't just much of a move. So somebody's trying to make a dollar. That's all I'm going to say there. That's what I think.
Speaking of making a dollar, perhaps wasting a dollar is probably a better adjective. The next one's kind of weird for a number of reasons. It's pretty small. We're talking here about China Automotive Systems, a ticker symbol CAAS, closing $8.62, up a whopping 10% today, or 78 cents, kind of like Blackberry, same range, same movement today. And the trade we saw today, they do no volume. They do 178 contracts a day. They did 198 today, so not exactly a big whopping trade. We saw 128 of the SEP 10s going up. But what was interesting about them more, I think, is, as you noted on our site, Andrew, today, is that kind of the way this trade went up. Somebody was chasing, looks like, buying for a dime and then 20 cents to get the rest, which is either the hallmark of someone buying to close. The risk manager's on their tail, got to get them done. This is not exactly the most liquid name either. A few hundred contracts open here or there. 460 open on this strike, so this makes this one of the larger strikes open on this, very illiquid name. So someone looks like they're chasing to get some calls off, which in and of itself, not the biggest thing, but the fact this is an $8.62 name and someone's chasing these SEP 10 calls, maybe there's some upside lumen, at the very least they're afraid of some upside lumen here. Exactly.
It had the feeling of like two cats fighting in a bag. Chasing these 10-level calls in September. Okay. I don't, again, they're what, $2 out of the money. The thing is, the stock did have a power move today. It was up 10%. So maybe they got more, 10% moves coming. But control, risk freak, something like that was definitely, it felt just like small paper, just I got to have it. Which is, just, I believe, kind of weird for a stock that doesn't move a whole lot. But it's moving now.
Yeah, that 100 lot really moving the tape here today. And yeah, who knows, maybe more to come. Want to keep an eye on. Like I said, small paper, but sometimes the interesting trades come up in small sizes. Unusual does not always translate into size. How many times we've said on the show before, the size money, not always the smart money. And this one certainly qualifies. Maybe not smart, but bizarre and worthy of some note. We're going to finish things up here with another kind of weird one, a little bit bigger size this time. This is Deckers Outdoor Corp, ticker symbol DECK, D-E-C-K, closing today at $59.21, up about $1.40 on the day, or 2.5%. This is another name that actually, from an odd box perspective, does pretty well, doing about 5,000 contracts a day, doing about 22,000 today, so some fairly decent volume. Looks like pretty much all of this came in, I don't know, what would you call this, a fly swap or
I think it's just a call spread swap.
Call spread swap. Why don't you walk our listeners through here what we saw? Some sizable call spread swap going up here.
Yeah, it looks like they sold out to close from looking at the open interest, the August 57.5, 65. They got a bit of a bid here today, and they make the Ugg boots, Deckers and Teva sandals, stuff like that. I think this was a Kramer favorite for a while. The stock had a good rally. It was up about $1.50, and it's rallied a lot from 52. So maybe somebody buying a super cheapy spread, they made their dough, and they're taking relatively the same amount of money. It looks like they're just rolling their winnings to the September 67.5 spread, which I think is kind of bullish.
What kind of threw me off on this one is why I thought it was a fly is that there's that 3,000 lot of the 65s went up too there, which is
right,
on.
Now that did not go up because I see the strikes are split. That was new volume at the time. It didn't go up. I don't think that went up in sequence with the other stuff, Mark.
And that could be closing because there's 3,500.
I don't think it went up in sequence at the time. I'm looking at time and sales. They went up at a separate time. So anyway.
Yeah, interesting one to watch. Look, they could be legging into a fly here. They could be, of course, there's 3,500 open on that 65 strike. They could just be closing that out separately. I find it hard to believe that it's all separate because it's such similarly sized blocks so close together. But he might have had a 3,000 lot lurking. He wanted to close it out and roll it up into the spread. There's a lot that could be going on there. That extra 3000 lot makes me rub my chin with curiosity and say, hey, what's cooking here in Deckers? I think we might have to file good old DECK into the to-watch category. Of course, the guy did it right already. Not an unusual trade to see someone taking a winner, taking it off the table, and rolling it on up and see if he can do the same thing again. Because if it worked once, right, it's got to work twice.
It could. If you did that in like 1993 to 2000 with Microsoft, you probably would have made like $10 million on a 10 lot.
Yeah, then if he did it from 2000 till now, he would have made like a nickel.
Yeah, you would have lost
until about the last month, and then you did all right. All right, listeners, thank you for that, Andrew. And now it's time to keep on rolling right on into the Express Block.
The Express Block, brought to you by Options Express. Options Express lets you trade where and when you want for every level of trading. From advanced charting, free daily trading ideas, and free educational resources, Options Express is the online broker for all traders. Best of all, Options Express allows you to trade stocks, options, and futures all in a single account on powerful yet easy-to-use trading platforms, including mobile devices. Visit optionsexpress.com/OXradio for your free account. Options Express is a member of FINRA, SIPC, and NFA.
All right, listeners, you know what time it is. It is time for the Viceroy to take the reins and for my voice to take a rest. And Mr. Alex, give us a peek behind the curtain over there at OX. I'm guessing, I'm just going out on a wild limb here, that given the fact that earnings are coming up, the folks over there at OX are starting to go wild yet again for good old Tesla. Tell me if I'm wildly off base here, Alex.
Yeah, Tesla was very active here today. In fact, yeah, I know I've mentioned this before, that the top three options that trade here are generally Spider, SPX, and Apple. But Tesla, it's turning into Spider, Apple, Tesla. But yeah, Tesla up over 6 today. And it's getting a lot of traction. I mean, I look at the social site, and I kind of tend to be a contrarian by the amount of commentary we get. And negative commentary is going away, which is frightening to me a little bit. But there just seems no stopping it. Earnings are a couple days away. And I think everybody's got pretty good expectations. I don't know how much of the government loan they've paid down, but that's one of the drags that was on them, and I think some of that is behind it. The other big mover here today was Facebook, bouncing off the 40 level, and a lot of money is unlocking that was sitting in accounts, waiting to get back up to the 38 level. In an homage to Andrew, Zynga was active here today, taking out $3 on both the stock side and, as I grin when I say this, on the option side. CBOE was active here today too, with Goldman downgrade. It got hurt a little bit after earnings, and Goldman downgraded it today. And obviously, a lot of our clientele are Chicagoans, and many are former floor traders. So there's a lot of CBOE sitting in their accounts, and it got beat up a little bit today.
That's surprising to hear you say that people are trading CBOE over there, because I know when it first launched, I kind of thought it would have that resonance with the options audience. You know, I dove in. I thought a lot of other, active options people in the business would trade it just for the sheer interest of trading options on CBOE. There's a bit of a meta game going on there, and yet it didn't really seem to resonate for a long time. Of course, now it's trading up around the 50 handle. It seems to be getting a little bit more action. Got downgraded, like you said, today, doing about it's been averaging about 4,000 contracts a day. Still not lighting up the old tape, but it's more than it was. I know when it first launched, I was trading on around the at the money. I think I did a 10 lot one day, and I was about a third of all at the money volume for that day on that strike. It was on the front month. It was crazy. It was just nothing going up. They did about 9,000 contracts today off this downgrade. Not surprisingly, someone would downgrade CBOE trading $50. This thing has gotten a wee bit rich of late. But, and also I know, Alex, we joked last week about Lucent kind of being this also ran, but you're saying it's kind of ticking up over there on the OX platform. People are starting to show it some love.
Yeah, I think this is the clear benefit of really focusing on some of the odd block stuff. I mean, I don't want to put a batting average on odd block, but a lot of times, you look back a week after something was on the odd block, and in the case of Lucent, it's had sort of a consistent rally here. And I talked about the fact that I thought some of the volume was coming out of the French transaction tax, and there was a story today that both the French and the Spanish transaction tax have hurt their volumes domestically, but Lucent is, running contrary up, I think another 11 cents today. It doesn't sound like much, except you're talking about $2.50 stock, and that stock is up over $1 in the last 6 or 7 months. That's a big move, and that's also a stock that's got popularity in the Chicago area because a big part of Bell Labs sits out here in the Lisle Naperville area. So there's a lot of that stuff sitting in customer portfolios here. A big part of it is in New Jersey too, where Bell Labs was headquartered. But was an interesting day today. I kind of look at what our clients were trading. Herbalife shows up on the screen periodically, and obviously, there's been a lot of activity there and earnings and the Ackman Icon feud. But the tone today was, pretty much down from the opening, but little pockets of stealth rally in the Apples and the Lulus and stuff of that nature.
And, I'm looking here at Lucent while you're talking, Mr. Viceroy, and yeah, it looks like the SEP2s and the Jan2s both have almost the exact same open interest levels on them. What are the odds that someone is not time spreading on those two strikes? Probably pretty strong that they are. So I'll have to take a look at that one and perhaps dig in a little more. But you're right, Lucent moving quite a bit. Was a big mover back in the day. Perhaps it'll become one again. I know there are a lot of people in our audience who hearken back to the days of Lucent. I think one of the worst tips I ever received, thank God I didn't act on it, but so many people did back in the dot-com bubble days, was when Lucent broke through the 63 handle. For whatever reason, that was some critical level, and then now it was the bargain of the century. You have to buy Lucent, and I can't tell you how many guys in all the pits around me were scrambling to load up on as much Lucent at 63 as they possibly could. And given now that it's $2.63, I think you can see how that worked out. But yeah, interesting one. Thank you for that, Mr. Alex. Now we're going to keep on rolling right on into the strategy block.
The strategy block.
All right, welcome to the strategy block. This is, of course, the portion of the show where Mr. Tusaw comes down from on high to dispense some options, wit, and or wisdom. Now, Uncle Mike, I've told you before, I can't really trust my birdies. They've been influenced far too much for my taste by you. So I sent those birdies out, but because I don't trust them, I sent a second pair of new birdies out behind them to watch the first one and report on them. And so now I have some double duty, some double action going on there. And the second birdies, and first one gave me a bunch of lies, which was just really disheartening. I had to let them go. But the second pack, they came back and told me that they said, you're thinking about today perhaps taking another look at an old favorite, the credit spread with benefits. Now tell me, are these new birdies worth their bird seed, or should I show them out to the old quote-unquote farm like I did the other ones?
Well, how do you know the first birdies aren't the loyal ones, and they didn't hire the second birdies to make you think that they were disloyal, and now they're running a whole scheme behind your back?
It's a scheme upon a scheme in the birdie world. I should have looked into this further. You're right. Maybe I slaughtered the wrong ones. I'll have to go back and do the whole thing over. I'm very confused, sir. Please start off with your credit spreads before I become even more confused.
That's just what I want the birds to convey to you. My plan is working. Ha ha. So I always like to talk. I like to talk about the old saying when those near beers were coming out. I think like Sharps and O'Doul's, and I think one of them, the saying was, "It's what beer drinkers drink when they're not drinking beer." And in this market environment, I know it's very common in the retail world anyway to do a lot of people's favorite, the credit spread, where XYZ stock is trading at $50 a share, let's say, and the trade then becomes to sell the 45 put and then buy the 40 put, receive a 50 cent, $1, whatever your credit is you're looking for, and then let it all expire worthless at the end of the month because the stock's never going to go down, of course. And with that comes Sunday night after the expiration, you get to see the coveted clean screen in your positions page that every credit spreader loves to see, and you just go on to the next month. Well, in this environment, that becomes a little bit more challenging with volatility at lower levels, meaning you'll have to either search a little bit harder for stocks that have high enough volatility to justify doing a strategy like this, or perhaps you'll have to make your credit spread a little bit closer to where the price of the underlying actually is. And this can hold true for call spreads as well as put spreads. Anything with which the premium seller or the credit spreader can do, it makes it a little bit more challenging. So today, what I want to go through is something that I like to refer to as the credit spread with benefits. And hopefully I don't get sued for saying this by any of the near beer companies, but I like to think of it as it's what credit spreaders spread when they're not spreading credits. I don't know if that marketing line will quite get the headlines that the near beer one did, but nonetheless, that's the concept. Let's say that XYZ stock is trading around the 50 level. And you like doing the traditional bull put spread, but you're just not quite getting the same premium with which you were before. Now, you still have a fairly neutral take on the stock and maybe a little bit bullish on it, but now here's what your concern is, and that's with volatility being fairly low right now. You believe that volatility is going to go higher, but at least you think that you may think that this stock's going to stay around a neutral level, and maybe you're a tiny bit bullish on it perhaps, because after all, let's assume that you're thinking that maybe stocks have had their run a little bit, and with the market at these high levels, maybe you're concerned with getting into the marketplace. Alas, my friends, the credit spread with benefits is here. One thing that you can do, and where this comes into play, or what we've actually been working with a lot, is with the new weekly options. And by the new weekly options, I'm referring to the ones that have 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week, and 5 week option expirations on it. We're selling 1 to 2 week options at, we'll just say theoretically, the 45 level. We'll sell the 1 week 45 put, and then we'll buy perhaps the 40 put at, I'll just say 3 to 4 weeks out. And ultimately what we're looking to get in the position delta or the position Greek section of our account, we want to see maybe a little bit of positive delta on it, not a lot, but a little bit. We definitely want to see positive theta from doing this. That's very important. But the main thing that we like about the credit spread with benefits, so to speak, go to the trade calculator on the Options Express website. And if you enter in a traditional credit spread, bull put spread, you're going to see a negative number in the Vega section, meaning that if implied volatility goes higher, then theoretically that's not beneficial for this spread, a credit spread. However, if you enter in the credit spread with benefits, then you'll see a positive number in the Vega section of that web page. Now, what this does is this allows you to still get theta, time decay, which is ultimately what every credit spreader loves. This also allows you, though, to be positive Vega, meaning that if implied volatility goes higher, it's going to actually benefit the trade, theoretically. So if you are a credit spreader and you're looking for a potential alternative, perhaps use something along these lines. The disadvantage is that you won't get the same positive deltas that you once had, but as with anything, it is a trade-off. And that is one to grow on for today. I thank my birdies for all your help with this project.
Yeah, my birdies are full of naught but lies these days. I think I'll switch to lizards. Maybe some iguanas. They can climb a little bit. Maybe some nice flying lizards, and I'll get them out to. It can be hard to get them out of St. Charles, so I'll have to arrange some sort of car service, I suppose. But as long as I can get something out there, because these birdies just naught but lies these days. I can't trust them.
Buy a ferret. Get a ferret.
They're starting to whisper Amazon. I'm sorry. They're starting to whisper Apple numbers to me in earnings announcements, which is that's my thing. They don't do that to me. So I need to really have a long talk with these birdies. All right. Thank you for that. Uncle Mike Tusaw, certainly one to grow on. And now we're going to keep on rolling right on into our final segment, Around the Block.
Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block. This is, of course, a portion of the show where we talk about what's cooking, what's on our tapes for the rest of the week here, collective tapes, I should say, and starting off with a big name that was moving a lot, made some big headlines over the past year or so. Of course, Disney acquiring Lucas and all the Star Wars stuff. Of course, prior to that, they acquired Marvel. They really seem to have purchased license to print money in that summer movie spectrum area there. They have earnings coming out on the 6th. Tomorrow after the closing today, $66 roughly even. So it'll be interesting to see what's going on there. That strata looks like it has about a little more than $1 and change of juice beyond the actual intrinsic value there. So expecting a little bit of a move, nothing huge. But of course, if you're interested in Disney, that's a good one to keep an eye on. Of course, a little bit closer to home, Groupon coming out on the 7th. They're closing all the way at $9. Doesn't seem like that long ago. All of us here on the show were teasing Mr. Grigas about buying into that 5 level and holding on to it for so long. Now, in retrospect, looks like a genius. The name is $4 to the north, and he is sipping Mai Tais on a beach somewhere, Mr. Grigas, with all that Groupon money. And then last, but certainly not least, Tesla on the 7th as well. Unfortunately, it won't. Actually, let me see. No, the 7th is a Wednesday, so unfortunately we won't be able to discuss it on the old show, because that one's certainly going to have some movement, and that one's certainly going to be pretty interesting. Maybe we'll talk about it in retrospect on the show on Thursday, so we can see what's going on out there in Tesla land, because again, another day when the market sold off pretty broadly for the most part, or at least was trending downward in most names. Tesla up 5% today, so this thing just cannot go down. It truly is a bizarre, bizarre beast. Mr. Andrew, what is catching your eye here for the rest of the week?
Really, not a lot. I'm having trouble finding stuff to do. We're looking at some just simple trades. I'm looking for, with the VIX trading below 12, any interesting vol trades to put on. I mean, it's just you're running out of downside in there. I actually talked to the VIX DPM last week. He's, how low can it go? It's not like it's just going to gap below 12. It's not going to gap from 12 to 11 one day. So it's getting kind of sticky down here at around this level. At the money implied volatility in the indexes is now below 10 on some strikes in the single handle again. So it's been quite a while since we've seen that. And I'm kind of mostly positioning for the next move, I have to say, Mark. Not really. Kind of treading water short term and looking for, now that most of the earnings are out, QE seems to be sort of done, sort of positioning forward here. Maybe in individual names that might look interesting. We're looking at LinkedIn. Zynga sadly will pretty much be done for me after the cycle. It was still worked out okay for the most part this year, but and, that's what we got.
Gives you some time to work on the old book, Buying Juice in All Scenarios by Andrew Giovinazzi.
And doing stuff. With a forward by Mike Tusaw on how to do stuff.
Yes, exactly. And a little extra forward by Uncle Mike also about the stupid, because, hey, never can have too much about the stupid in there. All right, thank you for that, Andrew. And Mr. Alex, what are you watching? A little birdie, one of the few birdies I have left here, is whispering on my shoulder here before the show. Something about the Pope and puts. And I'm thinking you can maybe illuminate that for me a little bit more here, Mr. Alex, and for our listeners.
Oh, the Vatican filed a lawsuit against Citibank because they had deposited some Royal Bank of Scotland and asked that it be hedged, and they didn't hedge. And so the Vatican got an $11 million settlement against Citi. But the interesting part of that story is a few times in my career, and I've obviously the old guy here, I've been around a lot, I've seen this kind of they didn't hedge complaint, or they didn't give me adequate hedging choices. And of course, we look at that stuff as option people and say, well, we can easily come up with 30 or 40 or, lots of different ways to hedge. You can hedge short-term, long-term, puts, collars, back spreads, in-the-money covered rights. It's just interesting to see the fact that that stuff is kind of cropping up again here.
Hey, don't mess around with the Pope. He knows risk management. He knows when you're screwing him and not putting on the downside leg of his collar there. I love it. Always hedge the Pope is the moral of the story.
Yeah. Don't mess with the Pope. So that was interesting. What's going on at the end of the week? I think you talked about it. I think the Disney earnings are going to be, good. I think good focus there.
Does that one get a lot of traction with the OX clientele there? They don't seem to be big Disney traders for whatever reason.
Not a ton. If you looked at earnings this week, we have more people that are going to be playing in Groupon and Tesla and Dendreon than we have in the Disneys and the Exxons last week. I talked about a little bit on the show last week that I felt I was at a Boston money management firm because everything that was coming over from the trading desk for a couple days was Exxon and Royal Dutch but that's not what lights up the phones most of the times. Here, our customers much more transactional. So I imagine this week they'll be focusing on Groupon and Tesla.
They like the high flyers over there in OX land. And who doesn't love Tesla? It can do naught but go up. So it makes it pretty easy, I guess. All right. Speaking of easy, Mr. Tusaw, what's on Easy Street for you the rest of this week? What are you keeping your eye on? What collars are you adjusting and what puts are you rolling, sir?
I'm just going to continue to watch Apple. I want to see it's getting closer to some areas of which it may be considered resistance, so definitely keeping an eye on that. Gold and silver have been plenty boring, so I guess thank God for the weekly options with which I can sell some premium on to, as a wise man once said, do stuff on to help finance a lot of these hedges that I have going, which has been working out pretty well. And just watching price action for now. We don't have near the amount of news that were economic indicators or whatever you want to refer to it as we had last week. So just laser focused on the numbers for now.
And I don't think Disney might resonate with some of your clientele. No action over there at RCM and Disney either, huh?
No, nothing with Disney.
And what about Ford? I know we've talked in the past, and you're looking to sell some puts to get in at some lower levels. Are you still looking to do that? Are you still pretty much washing your hands of these levels? Are you starting to maybe leg into something to get some action going in Ford, or are you kind of just still playing the wait and see game?
Still waiting, but no action as of yet. Still need it to come down a lot more.
You're old schooler in that sense, Uncle Mike, but I like it. All right. Thank you for that, Uncle Mike. And that is going to do it for the Around the Block segment and also for this episode of the Option Block. But before we go, let's check in really quickly with each of my cohorts, my partners in crime on the old All-Star panel to see what they have kicking around in their respective necks of the woods. Starting off with you, Mr. Andrew, what is cooking in the land of the pit?
We are rewriting our Platinum course, which used to be more of a one-on-one, but we've found that a lot of our clients have been interested in learning about a similar topic, so we're going to be launching that, which I have been writing furiously here for the last couple of weeks. I believe we're going to fire that off in the middle of August. So that would be it would basically take you out to some of the more advanced topics for trading and as far as trade selection, and also a little more delving into portfolio management as far as, I own some stock. How do I buy puts against it? How do I finance it? How do I give myself most of the upside with not this freaky, scary downside? And there are clever ways to do that, which is what we're going to show you in the Platinum course.
And again, listeners, it's not about the metals, so don't call up Andrew saying, how do I trade my Platinum? No. This is the Platinum level course. For all you super hardcore, sophisticated
Silver,
folks
gold,
out there.
platinum is the option pit wave.
There we go. You love those metals, just not teaching about them. That's something else. All right, thank you for that, Andrew. And Mr. Tusaw, what is coming up on the old RCM webinar train this week?
Well, we are so excited about the webinar that we have coming up this Thursday. We're moving it to Wednesday. That's how excited we are. It's going to be on strike price selection, and I think this one's particularly important in a market environment like this. We're going to be going over benefits as well as drawbacks of buying an in-the-money option, at-the-money option, and out-of-the-money option. So if you've ever had that predicament to decide what you want to go into and why you may want to consider it, I think this will be a good webinar. A story that I remember one of the first trades that I ever made, I remember I was substitute teaching, waiting for phone calls from NFL teams that never came. And I remember just putting on a 10 lot in IBM for like a nickel or something like that. Went to go get a drink between classes, came back, I was ahead $100. I thought this was the coolest thing ever. Needless to say, the next out-of-the-money option trade didn't quite work as well as the first one did.
I like it. And in case you weren't confused before there, listeners, that's Thursday night trading on Wednesday this week. So adjust your calendars accordingly. Uncle Mike keeping you on your toes over there.
That is right.
If it's easy to find, what's the fun in that? You got to move it around. Let's do it Sunday morning next time. Just really screw people up a little bit there. I like it. All right, sir. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Viceroy, aside from watching the Pope's hedging activity, what else is coming up over there in the land known as OX?
I'm tuning in Wednesday night to Mike's webinar. Strike price selection is so important. I don't think you can ever learn enough about techniques for it. But our Wednesday during the day at noon, we're doing a trading futures webinar. 1 o'clock, we're doing an intro into technical analysis. Thursday, we're doing mini options, and I know we've talked about at this point they're kind of disappointing, lackluster liquidity. We're still going to talk about them. Thursday at 3:30, we're going to do a platform tour, talk about the new updates to the platform and the features of the platform. And I was in a meeting this morning about upgrade 13.4, which the development team, I think, will lock down in the next week or so. And that's the one that has single leg walk limit in it. Idea Hub Futures is in 13.5, so that's later in the year. Friday at 1 p.m., we're going to do a tech lab, and we're going to do an intro and showcase our new streaming charts. And it's a full pattern of webinars always here at OX.
So there you go, listeners. Surf on over to optionsexpress.com. Click on the old educational tab, and you can find all that great stuff that Alex is talking about and a heck of a lot more to keep you busy. And on behalf of Alex and Andrew and Uncle Mike and, of course, myself, we want to thank all of you for downloading and streaming and subscribing to this show and doing it in such record numbers. We set so many new records again last month. It's really, really exciting to see. So keep it up, and we'll see you next time right here on the Option Block.
Become a part of the Option Block. Just visit www.theoptionsinsider.com/forum to post a question for the hosts. You can also submit questions to twitter.com/optionblock or leave a voicemail at 312-544-9356. Make it interesting, and your question just might make it on the air. The Options Block is property of the Options Insider Incorporated. All rights reserved. The preceding program was a presentation of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com/radio or search for Options Insider Radio in iTunes.